Today my plan was to work on AES encryption, right? But to do this AES encryption, we need to pass AES encryption options to Redux. Let me remind you what Redux is. Redux is a global store where all your data is stored. So that's where we want our key, IV, and other AES encryption options to be. So for that, we need to send them from our AES encryption options component, this one. That's what we don't do yet. So what I did before, when you couldn't hear me, I was passing this transform ID from transform element component to AES encryption options here. So now that we pass this transform ID, I could now dispatch text. I could now dispatch action. So action type we need to define still. We need to think if we want multiple actions. If we want multiple actions or we want a single action doing everything here. Yeah, I think multiple actions will not work because options will be different for every component, and we do not want a separate event for every transform options. I mean, we might have different transforms here, and for every transform we might have different options. Yes, I think best way would be to use the same action. So let's define transform options changed. So I define these transform options changed. And now we need to think where to send it and how. Because here not whole options change, just a single parameter, right? So we will want a local state for that. So I will need to use state hook. From where do I get it? I wonder why it's not imported automatically, because use state. It should automatically import from React. Yeah, now it imported, I think. Yes. So here we will have set state. I think it returns state. Let's say local state. Set local state equals use state, and here we provide default state. Let me check what's it returning. I don't completely remember what's it returning, so let's Google this up. React hook use state. Yeah, it's returning set state, that's correct. And here we provide initial state. So we will want to keep our settings here, our encryption options here. Which options do we have? Key, you know what? No, I think this is not such a great idea. Maybe just using Redux state is better. Yeah, let us use Redux state instead. So we will pass here our transform data instead of just ID. We will pass transform data. Transform data. I'll pass whole transform data object from props. And then we will just add to this transform data, we'll add options, and we'll set it to any, because we'll have many different types. I don't want to really get into typing hell, so I will just use any type for options. So okay, now these options, transform element component. Okay, so these options we will use here inside unchange. I think I can even have a function or not. I will add a function here. On change function, we will want to first change property in options and then send whole options. I think this is what we will want to do. Or you know what? We can just do it this way. We can have action which will send which property we need to change, and that's it. I will show you what I mean. Options property changed, and here property name, and then which is a string, and then new value, which is pretty much any, right? And that's what we will do, and we'll just dispatch an action, our new action type. Actions transform option changed, and data, which will tell which property changed and to which value. And then inside the reducer we will do all the changes needed. So we don't really need anything from here, but we need transform ID though. So also transform ID number. So then we don't need really whole transform data. But okay, it doesn't matter much. We can use transform data here. It won't hurt. better I call it like this: change options property, because it's a function, and function should be a verb, not some past participle or whatever it is. So now here on change we'll just call our function. Yeah, I did not add it into the interface. Here, since I'm using TypeScript, and here we have typed properties, typed props, I will want to also add this function to the interface, so that TypeScript knows we have this function and properties. So props change options property, and here we specify our transform ID. Transform data ID. Yes, now we need property name. Property name is key, and new value is the value which we got inside event target value. Yeah, I think this should work. An argument for prop was not provided, actually it was provided. Let's try again. Let me open terminal window. Yeah, now it's provided. Okay, now let's do the same thing with other inputs. Same thing we'll have here, but instead of key we'll have IV. Same thing we'll have here, but instead of key we'll have what we'll have bits. Same thing we'll have here, but here we will have, instead of key we'll have variation, right? So now let's handle this action in the reducer. What is this? Yeah, that's because I changed transform data. I will tell options or any, or we'll make it optional. That's, I think this should be fine. Yeah, now it's fine. Okay, I will do it like this. Options. I will make an empty object by default. So now let's handle this new actions transform option changed. So how would you handle this one? First, we need to find the transform. We already have an example how to do this here. Same way we can find it here. I would use, yeah, but they will tell us not necessary, I think. Let's try. At least CI will tell this. I prefer always using this with switch statement, because you get a separate scope so that you can use different variable names here. So I have transform, and now we need to set these values we sent. And we sent what? Transform data ID. Okay, so it will depend. We are sending transform ID prop and new value. So transform ID we already used. We need to use prop and new value. That's how we are going to use it. Transform action. First of all, transform options. Action data prop. Okay, I don't think it should be undefined. So let me go back to this transform data and remove, making the thing optional. So now we can assign it to our new value. Okay. No, it can be undefined. It can be if it's not found, right? Okay, let's check. If we found it, then we can do that, okay? Okay, now I think we will be having all the options we need in Redux, and we can proceed to actual AES encryption. Yeah, let's go to the encoder. Here, depending on the encryptor we selected here, actually. What I would like to do is to actually get this encoder live. So to do that, I would need to get it here. To use require, maybe I can use require, that's what I'm thinking. Require. Because with require we actually can do this on the fly and require the module we need from variable, but with import we can't do that, I'm afraid. So that's why let's try to do this with require. Const encoder equals require first transform type, then encoder .ts. I think .ts is not necessary, but whatever. Well, we can add it. It won't hurt. Encoder. I'm just not sure if it will work with export. Let's try to encoder encode. I wonder if it's going to work, because I think it's not going to work. Let's see what's happening. Okay, reducers 2817 options is missing, it's saying. Let me see this in the terminal. Property options is missing in type. Type non-ID number but required in type transform data. Okay, let's look at this 1920. Yeah, here we can basically, it's saying that I did not specify options. I will specify options, no problem. It looks like it's actually working. That's interesting. Okay, let's try then. AES encrypt encoder TS. So now we have a list of both possible encodings, where in the encoding drop down we can look at this. We have UTF-8, base64 and hex. No, I wasn't looking for that. I was looking for transforms, yes, for transform types. Transform selection drop down. So we have three possible encoders: non-AES encrypt and AES decrypt. So I can use this as the file name for the encoder. Yeah, that's how I named it anyway. So let's take inspiration from non-encoder and just copy everything here first. So we'll have some input, transform, and output. So transform data will also contain our options we need. Const AES encryption options. I think I can define it here so I don't forget. AES encryption options. So it has key, string, IV, string, which should be base 64, basically strings. Then bits, string, we will have such variations as AS 128, AS 192 bits, 256 bits, and also variations like CBC and ECB. AS encryption options we can get from transform options as AS encryption options. So we have it. Now I'm importing Node scripter module. You can just import Node scripter modules like this if you're using Webpack, if you're using React with Webpack, which you're probably doing anyway. You can import standard Node modules just like this. So I would use crypto, then to create encoder, create. No suggestions. So why there are no suggestions? Okay, I think I am gonna have to look it up. Node crypto. I don't really remember much of Node API, so I'm usually looking it up. Particularly such things as crypto, which I don't usually use. So here we have let me quickly check what we need. Let me look AES. Algorithm, password, IV. So we need to use create cipher IV with parameters algorithm, key, and IV, which we all have. We only need possible values for algorithm, but it looks like they look like this, exactly what we need. AS, then bits, and then CBC or probably ECB. Yeah, okay, let's do that. Algorithm, let me check it, get everything from here. So algorithm we need to create from our data. This is the number of bits, which is AES encryption options bits, and here variation. So this is our algorithm password, we don't need really. Key and IV we will have. Inside our AES encryption options object, which is passed to us from Redux. This is key and this is IV. So remember, this function will be called inside the reducer. I think we want to do it import import star as crypto from crypto. We might want this actually, yes. So now that cipher is created, oh my god, it has to be a sync, I think. Yeah, I think it's a good idea to make it an async function inside everywhere, both here and here. So since we have an async function here, maybe we have synchronous option though. Oh yeah, we could do it like this. I think this will be a synchronous function. But anyway, for other encryptors, for other transforms which might be async, it's a good idea. But we can't use async function normally in Redux. So yeah, let's not do that now. At least I think there will be some issues with using async functions with Redux. So let us just do this synchronously. Encrypted cipher update, and here we need to provide our text. Input encoding and then output encoding. Okay. Input is our buffer. Input is UTF-8. I think no. Input is binary actually. Can I do just with input because it's already buffer? What do I need from it? Yeah, that's the interesting part. How do I add a buffer to another buffer? I think I need to check this here inside the buffer API. Concat method returns a new buffer which will concatenate the buffer instances in the list together. Yeah, okay, we can use buffer concat. Encrypted equals buffer concat. So we concatenate these two buffers and return the encrypted result. Alright, I think this we might be onto something today. Yeah, but this has to be base 64 though. So this key, let me look again at this create cipher AV function. Algorithm key IV. The key, the row key used by the algorithm in AV is in both arguments must be UTF-8 encoding strings, buffers, typed array, so data views. The key may optionally be a key object of type secret. No, I think we will want the key to be base 64 in base 64, so I will want key to change actually. Const base 64 key, or I might do actually just this buffer from here base 64. I want key to be in base 64 because supposing that user has a binary key and wants to use our app, then they might have an option with this if we are using UTF-8, because how we are going to convert it to UTF-8 from binary, right? So that's why let us suppose that we have key in base 64. Although we'd also need some default parameters when we change it to AES encrypt element, right? We would want some encoding change to have change transform type. And here, depending on transform type, depending on transform type, we might set something else. So for example, if transform type is AES encrypt, then our options is AES encryption options, right? No, not here. then our options are AES encryption options. Transform options as AES encryption options. Okay, so and we can set options key to some random value. We can use node crypto for that. Just random bytes. How many bytes do we need? It depends on actual number of bits on actual algorithm. How big should the IV be also? Here we have IV 16 bytes, I think. So if options bits equals 128, then we have 16 bytes, right? This is 16. If we have options bits equals 192, then we'll have 24 bytes, right? That's what's happening. No, here, yeah, they use here 24, and then 32 bits for 256. What I'm doing now, I'm setting a random key value by default. When we create, and also same we can use to set IV value, I think. You know what? We could do just this. Const bits equals number. Options bits divided by 8. Yeah, I think this should be fine. Let's try now. AES encrypt. Yeah, it's not there because we don't really set that value from here. Let's go and set it here. So value we should get from our transform data props, transfer the options key, options IV, options bits, and here options variation. Yeah, a variation shouldn't be here. It should be here. Yeah, still it's not there. I don't get it. Now this time. Failed prop type. You provided a value prop to form field without an onChange handler. Okay. What? You provided a value prop to which form field? Output panel TSX30. We just set it here. SRC index app output panel 30. Yeah, but this is not the issue. I got what they're saying, but we don't want to do anything like this for now. So action is received, but however key and IV don't change here. I don't know why. Let's check again. Let me try to log this. Okay, key and IV are nothing. Yeah, right. Oh, why would it get it? Because there are no default values set anywhere. So default But now we need to understand that key length will also be different. So it should change every time. If I'm given here default, like let's say 128, let's say 128, and I'm giving options default variation to be CBC, right? Then by default, this of course can be 8, 8. Okay, let's be like this for now. Where do you mean you can't find bits? Okay, you don't need it anymore. Okay, so now we have something at last. 128 bits. Yeah, some style fixes will definitely be needed with this transforms panel. And thinking about getting more space for the transforms panel by reducing input and output panels in size. Yeah, otherwise it should be fine. At least we're getting the data. So, but it's not yet encoding anything somehow. Somehow it's not changing output. Why? That's what we will need to check here. First of all, encode should be as simple as, it should be just one string, I think. So encode new input, input encoding, and transform, right? So this should run our, I will tell you, non-encoder. And now we have AES encrypt encoder. This is the AES encrypt encoder. Somehow nothing is changing as much as I can see. Non-encoder is still run. Why is that? Let me check again our reducer. New state input equals new input, the input we received, then output equals encode, new input, input encoding, and we transform everything to string. Let's check encode function. Alright, we shouldn't be doing this for just non-encoder. For any encoder we will want this, right? We don't even want break anymore. I think this would be enough. Okay, something happened. Invalid key length. At least we are going somewhere. Why is length of the key is 8. So this is enough. It says invalid key length. Let me show you again what it says. So it should be doing this immediately. Invalid key length 8, it says. Which I don't even know where it starts. Dispatch reduce encode 10 AS encrypt encoder 17 line 17. So here it says invalid key length. Okay, it should be 16, right? Because what have I just done? Because 128 bits, these are 16 bytes, not 8 bytes. I don't know. So what's happening here? Okay, that's what's happening. We run encoder encode, but we don't really change this data. Okay, something is going, but I should see this as base 64. Okay, something is happening. I think now it's encrypting, but there are a lot of UI work to be done. There are many tests to be written. One of the things I haven't done is I don't actually do this encoding when something else changes. When something other than input changes. For example, on encoding change, we need to also recalculate our input. We also need to recalculate our input on transform edit. We also need to do this. Maybe on transform edit we don't necessarily want to do that, but on transform removal we do want to do that. On transform type change we do want to do that. On transform options change we do want to do that. Okay, so basically at every point now it should change. AS encrypt. Alright. So we should get in state new state input. Because here I was using data from action as the first argument, but instead we should use input data. input which is stored in the state. This I think should be good now. Okay, now let's change this to base 64. Okay, and we have this encrypted in base 64, and it will dynamically change when we enter some text. You see? Look who's back. Okay, I think we are good here. One thing I'll tell you is that what you shouldn't usually do, you shouldn't use console.log everywhere like I just did now. But just because I didn't want to spend time on setting up logger on this stream, I didn't do anything with that. But other than that, you should use some better logger. I think in one of the next streams I will explain you what better loggers you can use, which loggers I prefer myself, and why is it a better option. So for today, I think I'm going to end the stream. So if you like this stream, please subscribe. Remember, I'm doing this almost daily at 7:30 UTC. Tomorrow I will continue working on this. So please tune in tomorrow. We will check more about different algorithms you see, because now if I change to 192 it will immediately fail. You know why? Because our default key has length 16 and current key isn't suited for that. So in this case I'm not sure what we should do. I don't think we should crash whole app, of course, but I think we should probably show error in the output instead. I also don't think we should substitute the key, because if user pasted his own key themselves, if they pasted their own key themselves, so then if they did not select correct number of bits first, it would be wrong to replace their key with something else. Anyway, tune in tomorrow for more. Thank you for watching, and bye.